responding to the two issues directly. As the ANC, I think that the committee needs to agree on a treatment on revelations that have come out subsequent to the committee finishing its work in the Madlanga Commission. I think the piecemeal approach is not going to help us. Honorable Breitenbach just now was celebrating the issue of the rejection of the plea bargain by Mr. Matlala.
Sentence.
Yes, and my understanding is that within that there's possibility that some of the testimony that he had given before us would have been impugned. Similarly, on the issue of allegations that would also come out against members of this committee in an adverse manner at the Madlanga Commission, including the assertions made by Honorable Shong. So I think, Chair, at this point, we may not have a specific position, but we think we need a treatment where we agree what do we do with issues like that and how do we respond. I do, however, support the assertion made by the proposal made by Honorable Breitenbach, or at least the report, that she will encourage people to write to us where they believe that the protection and privileges that they are supposed to have would have been violated before the Madlanga Commission. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Honorable Ntuli. Honorable Nola.
Chair, just one issue, which I think for the record is important for us to say, particularly in respect to how the committee treated the then proposed appearance of General Khan before the committee. We'll recall that the committee's decision not to call General Khan was based on the evidence that was tabled by our principal witness, General Mkhwanazi, of how he has come to vindicate General Khan in respect of the DC matters that he presided over. I think, Chair, it is important that we say it here that that's what in the main made the committee not to consider calling General Khan to appear before the committee. Just for the record, Chair, I think we should repeat that. Of course, members would have echoed their own views, but what binds us together now is that we took a decision not to call General Khan for a testimony. Of course, had I known some of these issues that are developing now, I would have went for him to appear, but it was a committee decision. I don't want us to appear clumsy by pointing out our decision to individual members. Thank you so much, Chair.
Okay. Honorable Sokanyile.
No, I'm covered by what has been said by the members of the African National Congress. Thank you.
Honorable Skosana.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I will hate to say chicken are coming home to roost. I will hate that. But I want to put it clearly here in this meeting. You know, it will be perhaps like I'm a bit hard on some of our members here. But I said it and I'm still repeating it again. We fought over the issue of General Khan many times, and I was told there's no substantiated evidence before us, and it's not about why are we bringing Khan after Khan's name was mentioned by several witnesses here. Several witnesses, and I still have that video. There was an issue about Khan, but eventually it sounded like one is personal. And it was not personal. I mean, I've spoken to Khan myself. I've spoken to so many generals who came before here because we want information. But the issue of Khan is haunting me here because I'm saying when this matter was raised by witnesses here, in almost 4 or 5 witnesses, I said it in this meeting, that his name is coming in. All these witnesses are mentioning him, Now, the Madlanga Commission called him And we must own up. Khan was supposed to be called here. On that one, we've dropped the ball on that one. But be that as it may, is history. But the issue of Khan was discussed here, I think, twice. But because, as you know, when you have to, majority rules, it's a fact. We cannot change that. It's recorded. You can go to Hansa. It's recorded there, the issue of General Khan. But for now, I'm not sure whether it's proper for us to write to Madlanga, because I thought we've got our own thing here as an ad hoc committee to deal with. Let Madlanga deal with that issue of Khan. And us here, because it didn't appear before us, let's accept that we have dropped the ball. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Breitenbach.
I'm comfortable with the approach suggested by my colleagues, Chair. And yes, the decisions in this committee were taken as a committee. There were no individual decisions taken here.
Okay. Honorable Klopper.
Thank you, Chair. I'm comfortable. I'm covered by Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you. Honorable Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Kosana was out when I raised the matter, so I just wanted to clarify some issues, or maybe that you missed, Honorable Kosana. The issue is not about the appearance and whether we have dropped the ball as a committee or not, right? And that's something that we can process. That's not the issue here. The issue is that we had a member of this committee give a testimony that it was because of a political party, and in particular, a member of that political party, the EFF, who was the reason Major Khan did not appear. Not that it was a committee decision. So that is what we are asking, that matter be clarified. And clarifying it to the commission has got nothing to do with the fact that the committee made that decision. Whether or not we dropped the ball, it was a wrong decision. That is something that can be discussed. But it can't be that we go and we say one person influenced a decision of 10 members of this committee. It's bringing the committee into disrepute. Let's take a collective ownership. There are many things that even as the EFF, we lobbied for and we didn't get it. I mean, the issue, we wanted to get a case open for Brown Mkhwanazi when he came here and he purged himself. The committee didn't agree that we should go to the speaker. We didn't go and say that, we just went and we opened a case. So it's more from that. It's not about the merits of the case. I also think, Honorable Kosana, that you must give submissions to the committee, because this is going to end up becoming a hot topic, right? And give submissions of all the witnesses that implicated Khan here in the committee. And then we can take it from there, because from our understanding and where we were at, and when we were also making those discussions, it was Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi who brought up Khan to that drug bust and that he cleared him. And there was nothing subsequently. So if there was and we missed it, let's submit it. And if we need to make a decision that we dropped the ball, I think there's many other witnesses that we didn't have have here in the committee. But that was our input. It wasn't about whether or not we should have made the decision for Khan to appear here, but it was that it was presented to the commission that it was Malema, the EFF, that stopped the commission, that stopped Khan from appearing here, and that's where we're at. But we're happy that this matter we can discuss at a later stage, and that it's just noted for now so we can continue with our deliberations. Chair, thank you.
Honorable Sauls.
Good morning, Chair. Chairperson, for me, it's always important for us to protect the integrity of this committee. And when we make statements that seems to imply that the integrity of this committee is questionable, it becomes a problem for me personally. There's a difference between lying and deception. Lying, you can just say this person is not speaking the truth. Deception is more deeper. It is speaking the truth untruthfully. And I think that's what's happening here. The truth is being spoken untruthfully. I usually don't bother myself with MK's position to make statements for populism. But this one is more serious. It's wrong for Honorable Skosana to say that we dropped the ball. We didn't drop the ball. The committee, there's many witnesses that was placed or proposed that was not seen or heard. To say that we dropped the ball is to say that we are not doing the same thing as what the Madlanga Commission is doing in terms of the overarching aim. We made a contribution to what is happening in our country today. And we should not take that away from the committee. So I have a problem with the statement making it look like the committee intentionally, as a joint body, made a decision to protect General Khan, when none of us, or in my case, doesn't know him. And that's my problem. We can have our personal individual issues, but to give the nation the impression that the MK was visionary and the rest of the committee went against the MKP to protect General Khan, that's my problem. And we should deal with that perception, make it very clear, Honorable Chair, in order to protect the integrity of this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much for your inputs and comments, honorable members. I've given each one of you an opportunity to speak. We are going to take the proposal that says towards the end of our work, sometime before we do the final adoption of the report, we will come back and do an overview of whatever issues that would have emerged and make decisions on those issues. Honorable Sangoni has raised a matter here together with Honorable Breitenbach about some of the matters that appeared before us relating to some of the witnesses. Some of the witnesses would have appeared before us and made statements that were not truthful. And later, outside the committee, it emerges that those statements that were made before us were indeed not truthful. So we may have to pick up such issues and later come back as a committee to make our own observation on such matters and decide how we move forward, including the matter which Honorable Breitenbach raises on the protection of witnesses that had appeared before us. Honorable Matthews has also raised a matter here about the integrity of our process or processes. Those are the issues that we must come and discuss one day. We'll agree on the date on which such matters will appear. And if members have more issues that they want to put on the agenda, they may make such submissions. We take ownership of the decisions that we have taken here as the committee. As the chairperson, I can assure you that in all the meetings that I presided over, I was at my highest level of sobriety. And that is why I always kept my notebook with me here, taking notes on what we were discussing. there is not any other decision that has been taken in our meeting that we were induced, that we were under duress, that we would have been bribed to arrive at such a decision. And if the members of the committee remember very well, it was our decision that we will rather postpone the commencement of our proceedings to allow General Mkhwanazi to be the first witness to appear before the committee, so that once we have listened to his appearance, the committee can then determine the list of witnesses that were going to appear before it. And the committee further emphasized, honorable members, that it had the sole authority to decide on who was going to appear before it. And evidence leaders were also given an opportunity to propose a list of witnesses that they thought could appear before the committee, but without the power to decide who must appear before the committee. Members of the committee were also at one stage given an opportunity to make their own submissions about who must appear before it. And decisions were taken. We are going to stand by those decisions because they are our decisions. Nevertheless, we will still have time, like honorable members have said, in case there are further observations before we wind up the work of the committee. Those matters must come up for discussions. Chief Whip, maybe before we start, just to take the people of South Africa on board before we go to deliberations, they need to understand what we are doing. And allow me to take this opportunity to invite the people of South Africa to join us and follow us in our proceedings today. South Africans, we are at a point where we are deliberating on the first preliminary draft, on the first draft preliminary report of the committee. Members of this committee have been given sufficient time to go through the report and make their own inputs. They have made inputs. The inputs were incorporated into the draft that today is up for deliberation. It's our first day today. We have planned to start discussions today. If we cannot conclude, we will continue tomorrow. Number two is that after we shall have finalized the report this week, we will send it out to all the affected parties or those that would have appeared before us for a period of 10 days. And then after 10 days, the committee will come back for the final adoption of the report. And I hope that catch-up, Chief Whip, was necessary for people to understand where we are and what we are doing. Once the report has been adopted by the committee, it will be sent to the office of the Speaker. And I want to make this plea with you, honorable members, that there is no one amongst us, including myself as the chair, who will speak about the report of this committee until the Speaker officially tables it in the National Assembly. This is not, the report that we will be adopting here is not a report of the committee, it's a report of the National Assembly. So once we submit to the office of the Speaker, all of us are going to we must exercise self-restraint and allow the Speaker to table the report before the National Assembly. And when the report has been tabled and accepted by the National Assembly, we can all go out and start talking about the report. We are at this point because of the support, the unqualified support that we got from our support staff, the coordinator of the committee, Mr. Raman. Thank you so much for the sterling work that you have done. And I must also thank the content team, Ms. Van Zyl-Goos, Ms. Silkstone, and Dr. Annie Kok for the outstanding work. I mean, to produce such a voluminous report is no mean feat. We want to thank you so much. We may not have all the words to thank you, but if I say to you that we thank you in superlative, you will then understand that we have used the highest degree of comparison. So thank you so much for, it has been a very energy-sapping exercise, but you stayed the course. And look, without being a devil's advocate, I know not all the moments were good. There were moments when we left this meeting with our spirit very, very low. You know, when you prepare a report, you go to a meeting and members dismiss it. You do not know what these people want, but you were unrelenting, very resilient until you navigate us to the point where we are today. And for that, we must thank you so much. Honorable members, we have agreed that we are going to let me start by saying that you have familiarized yourself with the structure of the report. And before we start, let me remind you about what we have said. We have said that we are going to deal with the report through a thematic approach. And in one of our meetings previously, if you remember the content team, when they presented, they took us from section 1 of the report to up to section 11, which as committee members, we agreed that those sections essentially cover what we call the record of proceedings, which will be up to page 258 from the introduction on page 9 up to the last candidate the last witness who appeared before us. All that information is covered on page 258. A presentation was made, and members of the committee were also given an opportunity to go and make submissions if they felt there was something that would have been left out. And for the purpose of this meeting, we are going to start from page 256, which is the assessment and analysis of evidence. And then we will then, from there, we will move to the themes, that is from theme 1 on governance until theme 7 at 13.9, which is on page 353 of the report. And that will be followed by a cross-cutting assessment of the principal allegations on 361. And the next section, which is section 14, deals with the findings and the recommendations. So in terms of approach to this meeting, honorable members, we are going to start at number 13, like I said, from page 256. And then I will give each of the members, or I will not give, I will call the members for them to indicate if they want to speak. Those who want to speak on a particular section, they are given an opportunity to make their own submissions on that section, raise out matters of agreement and matters of disagreement with the report. And then from there, we will move to the next section, which is section 14 on the findings. Deal with those matters the same way, where those who want to speak will be identified. And then the last section will be the recommendations. Yeah. Can I check if there is any one of you who wants to speak before we get into deliberations? Honorable Skosana.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to find out that dissenting opinion, dissenting views on opinion, is it allowed? Am I right?
Disagreements.
Yes.
Points of disagreement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Honorable Matthys.
Chair, it's allowed. We have some inputs on, and I don't know how you want to manage it, but both in the introduction, I think it's important that we set the pace, or we set the tone rather, on what it is to come. And there are things that we agree with in the introduction, but I don't think it sufficiently captures clearly what it is that we are about to do on the report. So I don't know if you want me to read through what we think or what our submissions are on how the introduction is positioned, or whether we must just send it as a written matter for it to be incorporated.
Okay.
It's not groundbreaking, but it is something that we think should set a tone just for clearer deliberations. Thanks.
We will give you that opportunity. The Honorable Sangoni.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, we wanted to check and maybe propose that the assessment and an analysis of evidence, the findings and the recommendations are taken together per theme. So if we're dealing with theme 1, for example, we don't do assessment of evidence and analysis and leave it.
Separately.
Yeah, but we do the assessment and analysis of evidence, the findings related to that theme, and the
And then
recommendations, and then we
you
move on
close-
to the
you
next theme.
Close the item.
Yes, please.
And move to the next.
Thank you, Chair.
Agreed. Honorable James, good morning and welcome. I see you are nodding your head, you are agreeing. Okay. Okay, let me check with yourselves, honorable members, before we go to the themes. On the introduction, or the part that was previously presented in the meeting, from section 1 until section 13, as Honorable Matthys proposes. Can I check if there is any amongst you who has inputs or comments to make? Honorable Thopa, I see your hand is up. Honorable.
Chairperson, I don't have many inputs. I just want one correction. It's a
Yeah.
spelling mistake.
Yeah.
Further, I don't have any other corrections. It's on the footnotes. Mkhwanazi is spelled incorrect throughout the whole report.
Oh yeah. It's Mkhwanazi. It's Mkhwanazi. Mkhwanazi. Yeah. It may be a surname elsewhere in Africa, but not in South Africa. Elsewhere on the continent, but not in this country, rather. So that is the only correction you wanted to make. Okay.
It's for this section.
Yeah,
Chairperson.
and then Honorable Sols, I saw your hand is up. You have inputs to make. Okay, let's do this. We are going to start with Honorable Matthys. Honorable members, let's be at 1.
Okay, sorry, it's a simple correction. It's not really input, just a correction.
Okay. Yeah, let's take the correction.
In section 3.2, where all the members' names are mentioned,
Mm,
everyone has their initials
yeah,
that points to their second names.
yeah.
Mine only has my initial pointing to my first name. My indigenous name is not there, Oike. And it must be the initial to reflect the indigenous element, must have the exclamation mark and the Q. So it should be A, exclamation mark, Q, source.
Yeah.
That is Ashley Koike, the first source.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
The correction will be made, honorable members, and apology for that weakness in the report. Honorable Matthews, can I check first with you, how much time do you need to?
Oh, it's probably 2 minutes. I think
Okay.
it's better that I just read rather than talk to it because I can be a bit long-winded, as we know. So just from section, so when we get to 1.5 on the introduction, our inputs here is that, we do support the view that the committee must produce a report that is firmly grounded in evidentiary record and capable of assisting Parliament in exercising its constitutional oversight. But what we must highlight here is that we are here to make findings where evidence permits and recommendations where intervention is required. So I don't think the introduction is capturing that. It's very high level and it's not setting the tone on what it is we were established to do. So the National Assembly established us as a committee. We weren't here just to summarize the allegations and record versions that were competing. We were specifically mandated to investigate the veracity and the implications of the allegations that was made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi and identify government failures, oversight lapses, and to determine whether the evidentiary record disclosed wrongdoing, whether it disclosed corruption or misconduct, and also to make recommendations regarding legislative policy and institutional reform. So our final report must be based on that mandate and our introduction must be able to set that pace a little bit more clearly. And that's pretty much up until we also need to capture that also more clearly under the mandate of terms of reference and to not give such a high level view that we were just here just to listen and then make an assessment. But we were here to, it must come out very clearly that we must be able to make findings, we must be able to make recommendations where evidence is provided. And if our content team can just capture that more clearly, and I think that's pretty much our input. Thank you, Chair.
I think the point is indisputable. Is there any member opposed to the insertion of that into the introduction? Going, gone. Are you triggered, Honorable Skosana, or were you just repositioning yourself?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to find out, Chair, on our input, the proposed treatment and draft location. I wanted clarity on that from the word go because I've seen the wording which was used here. I'll give you an example, section 7, in terms of limitations. Is this this limitation found by the legal team or is it by the admin staff? Because I'm looking at one example, the issue of Morgan Maumela. That the record is untested allegation and considered referral only way identifiable evidence exists is on location 7, 13, and 15. So my question is that, are we going to debate these issues? Are we going to deliberate in these matters?
Yes, assessment of evidence. When we speak about analysis and assessment,
Yes.
when we come to that section on deliberations, if there is anything that you think is inadequately covered in the report, you are able to raise it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, are we ready to go, honorable members? The meeting is like it's very tense. So, is there anything you have heard which I do not know, which makes you so nervous? We can't be like we are getting into an examination room.
It's a reshuffle has caused this chair.
No, that one does not belong here. For sure, you know the separation of powers very well. This is not an examination, it's deliberations. Honorable Matthys.
Okay, Chair. Also on, and I'm glad he did trigger me, Honorable Kosana, because we jump into, what is it, page 200 and 240. But we also have inputs on, you know, on how we are entering our findings and our recommendations. So even on 7.4, on the evidentiary limits, also the institutional limits, it's not properly captured. It gives a very high level view of what the committee had to deal with. It should be noted clearly here what were the resources that the committee requested in its terms of reference and was adopted by the National Assembly, and what was made available to us by the Office of the Speaker. I don't know if we want to include a section that deals specifically with our engagements with the Speaker in terms of the resources that were available, because it's not clearly captured here, and I think it has far-reaching consequences on how we were able to engage our witnesses and also the evidence that was before us. We've got documentary evidence of our engagements with the Speaker's office, not just on the resources of like the forensic investigators, her response, her time, of going back and forth on responding on requests that we have made. Even the issue we had, an example is that we had in our terms of reference, we made, it included that we must have psychosocial support for our witnesses here. That was not made available, and that matter was needed on that day when we had one of the witnesses that was crying uncontrollably since she arrived. Even on that day, we did not even have medical services. I mean, sometimes the ambulances were out there, but they were not available on that day. And we had to go through and continue with the witness without having that clarity on whether, you know, this was something that we should be doing or not doing, or whether it was white woman tears or whatever the case may be. So these things must be highlighted because it's going to set the pace on how we're going to go into our deliberations. And it's a very, very important fact because it was also something that we raised continuously as a committee and our engagements with the Speaker's office in terms of making resources. It can't be that Parliament adopts that we set up an ad hoc committee, it asks for its terms of reference, we say what it is that we need, and then it's not provided. And these should also form part of our recommendations. And I mean, it's not necessarily to take the Office of the Speaker to task, but also for Parliament to be able to, going forward, when we set up these ad hoc committees or inquiries, that we ensure that there are resources available and we don't become a laughingstock of a country where we just sit and listen the whole day and we are unable to
we even end up using our own resources as individual members of parliament, or we use our party resources to be able to get information. So the EFF, we've also made recommendations that, but we'll get to it, but the recommendations that we're going to make further on, it needs to be captured here on what our challenges were in terms of its limitations. So when we make the recommendations later, the report speaks to itself. So we just like that to be clearly captured on what the committee was provided in terms of it being able to do its work. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, can we hear what the comments of the members are on the matter? Honorable Chief Whip.
No, thanks, Chair. I tried to listen very, very attentively to what Honorable Matthias was saying. And as I was doing that, I really wanted to avoid a situation where my judgments and my own views about what she says is clouded by the latest development, which has been led or being led by the organization that she comes from, towards the speaker. Now, I would prefer that, Chair, if we want to have a specific observation that we want to make about the quality, the level, and whatever we call it, of support that we anticipated and happened to have received from the Office of the Speaker. I think the point of departure would be for us to have an agreement on what were our own collective expectations as agreed upon by the committee, and depart from that position to then determine whether or not the Office of the Speaker responded to our request adequately, effectively, and in line with our own expectations. I think each one of us had views about what we wanted to see happening. I seem to recall very well a debate that once taken place when the Honorable Matthias was arguing very strongly that we should have been provided with a forensic investigation. And but I don't seem to recall that the committee ultimately took a firm position on that matter and conveyed its position to the Office of the Speaker, and probably even got a response, or we might have been failed in one form or another. So I would prefer, Chair, that the observations that she's talking about are very important, but I would prefer that I think we will have to be a bit meticulous about a proper recordation of what was agreed upon by ourselves as a team, and then make observations about where there may have been weaknesses or challenges with regard to those interventions not being provided by the Office of the Speaker. I'm not very certain that discussing it the way we do might help us here and now, but I would suggest that when we meet, in all of our meetings were recorded, decisions were minuted. I think it should be possible for the team that is working with us to extract those decisions that we took and say to us, these are decisions that we arrived at, and then we can, as a committee, do an evaluation of the extent to which the Office of the Speaker did intervene to help us achieve our own objectives in line with those decisions. So I suggest that we don't deal with it in a way that has been presented. I think let's accept that it has been presented, but initiate a process that will be more objective and substantive to deal with it, so that it will not be difficult for us to have a consensus on each of those issues. Thanks.
Okay, can I check if we still have any other speaker from the NC? Honorable Skosana.
Chair, I'm going to make a remark first. I'm not sure whether you allow me to do that. Because now we'll be deliberating this report for the next 2 days, perhaps 2 days if we don't finish today. And as a representative of our people in this country sent to Parliament, and I think perhaps I've missed that earlier, that both the Madlanga Commission and ourselves, the people of this country are expecting results out of what we are doing here. And as such, I just want to applaud South Africans as well, you know, that the behavior yesterday in the so-called march to march behave in a manner that it befits South African, real South Africans, besides the incidents which happened. And the police has shown yesterday that they've got the capacity to defend South Africans. Now, besides the other opinions, because as I'm saying, I said to you, we've got different opinions about issues, but I will emphasize and applaud and say thank you, South Africans, for your behavior yesterday. Smolanyana incidents. And coming to the issue here, Chair, I think this draft report, hence you said that we read it, you know, all of us here, I believe. And indeed, there's not much, you know, which perhaps one can point out, you know, from Mkhwanazi party and as a member of this core committee. Dissenting views will always be there, and there's nothing wrong. You know, even in the Constitutional Court, even in the Supreme Court of Appeal, sometimes they differ. And there's nothing wrong that we abide as if there's something wrong, then somebody must be afraid to say, no, I differ. No, if I differ, I differ. But the majority rules. You know, and we'll accept that. But it doesn't mean that they must keep quiet when we said things here and we are pointing them out clearly, openly, because this committee, millions of people are watching this. And we cannot change facts. Because there's broadcasters here. They've got these recordings here. So one cannot change it because he wants to certify somebody else. There's no one who's judging anyone. But indeed, Chair, let's start. Okay. Thank you.
Can I check Honorable Breitenbach?
Thank you, Chair. I largely agree with the input of Honorable Mthuli. I'm not a praise singer for the speaker, but I think that our domestic issues should remain just that, domestic issues. We can discuss, you know, matters that we thought we did well and thought that we did less well, and lessons learned amongst ourselves, but I don't think we need to air them in a different context.
Okay.
Thank you.
Honorable Klopper. Honorable Sols.
Thank you, Chair. I think the issues are covered sufficiently in section 7. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable James.
I tend to agree, Chair. I think at this stage, our submissions and our recommendations needs to ultimately foster public trust. So if we're going to be reflecting and having a sort of separate space where we highlight the shortcomings, where we feel that, you know, we were shortchanged, we were delayed, we didn't have the relevant support, how does that instill the public trust and confidence, you know, in whatever recommendations we're going to be making? If we're going to have sort of, it's almost like I'm not even sure how to put it, but I agree with Honorable Mthuli.
Okay. Thank you so much. Honorable Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chief Whip, I can assure you that this has nothing to do with the vote of no confidence in the Speaker. And you'd know that the EFF has always been passionate about resources being available and been able to fully capacitate the committee. We can take the position that we don't have to go to the extent of highlighting the office of the Speaker in that regard. But I agree with you, Honorable Ntuli, that there is, and that's what I did say, is that there is the whole record of our communication, and I think that must just be captured, because it's quite possible that our report is also going to be taken on review, and we might make recommendations and stuff that is not, I'm not anticipating, but it can be. So that's what the section is about. It's our limits. It's not saying that we are already setting ourselves up for failure, or as Honorable James is saying, decreasing public confidence, but it's saying these were our limits and this is what we had to deal with. It is in the terms of reference of the resources that were requested. So the committee's deliberations on that is whether we pushed for it or not, but it's the National Assembly that adopted that these are the resources must be made available to the committee. But we can move on. We don't have to go back and forth on that moment. But I think in terms of our limitations and our capacity to be able to perform ourselves, it must be noted what was made available in terms of what the National Assembly adopted for us to have available to the committee. Thank you.
Okay, honorable members, we are going to move forward. Let me remind you that if you go back to the minutes of our meetings, you'd know that at some point the chair was advised to write to the Speaker on the support that Parliament could give to the committee, and those letters were written, and the office of the Speaker responded to the request that the committee has made. If you remember, with regard to forensic abilities, there was one letter where the office responded and indicated that amongst the evidence leaders, there was one of the councils who had those abilities. Maybe on our part as the committee, we might have not indicated the areas where we needed such services to be employed. But nevertheless, I think the meeting has expressed itself very adequately that in case there is any other matter coming to light, we can always deliberate on it and determine if we should include it in the report or not. What I hear coming out of the members is a reminder to all of us that we have been put as a committee to investigate. And we were not only investigating, but we were investigating the veracity of allegations that have been made. And so it means the whole report at the end, especially with regard to its assessment of evidence, should be able to indicate where we agree that here we agree that those allegations that have been made have been verified. And for sure, those allegations that would not have been verified, the committee can say there is a case to be investigated here. And whoever is responsible for investigating can investigate, but where the committee is convinced that sufficient evidence has been presented, there have been malpractices, there have been, or there is prima facie evidence that criminal activities would have been committed, the committee should be able to make those findings and recommend what action has to be taken. I'm just saying this so that we have an understanding on how we deal with the analysis, assessment of evidence, findings and recommendations, like it has been suggested here that let's treat them together and not separately. So I'm now going to move honorable members to page 256. Hello, Honorable Sangoni.
Sorry, Chair, I'm just wondering, with you having accepted the proposal that we treat all three elements together, will they be restated for members to follow the logical link between the evidence, the analysis, the findings, and the recommendations? That would assist.
Yeah, my understanding is that if you remember when the draft report was released, because this is a draft that incorporates inputs that parties or members would have made, and do you need to have a caucus? Do you want to request me to give you a caucus before we start, or? Because there must never be any confusion before we start the meeting. Because I see you are talking between yourselves across parties. Do you want me to give you a caucus? Okay, let me give you a 15 minutes break so that you agree amongst yourselves if there are any issues. Because you see, once the meeting starts, there is no way stopping the chair. Yeah. So you need to talk between yourselves and understand this procedure properly. Yeah. Okay, I'm giving you 15 minutes break. Your break is starting at 11:15. We are coming back at 11:30. 11:30, we were resuming the proceedings. And I think that members have had enough time to talk between themselves. The sense I get is that the approach that we are taking, even though agreed to, it may be somewhat complex. So we will exercise that with some degree of flexibility so that members do due diligence to the report. And I have said that for the purpose of deliberations on the report, I'm going to allow each one of you to speak because we are deliberating on the report. It's not compulsory that you must speak where you agree with the content of the report. You can just indicate that in this section, I'm covered. Like I said, we are now on section 13, assessment and analysis. And we have said that we will take the assessment together with the findings and recommendations. But what I said, Honorable Matthias, is that we will exercise some degree of flexibility so that members are satisfied that the process is done in a way that when we come out of the meeting, all of us have some form of satisfaction that we would have done justice. Can I note the hands that want to speak? Yeah? No, I said to you that we are on page 266. Yes. Do you want us to go? No, we can't go page by page. Listen to the approach I want to. The approach is that I recognize hands. And the reason why I'm saying we're starting on page 266, that is where the assessment starts. And then remember, we have agreed on a thematic approach. If you go to page 278, 268, I think, that is where we start with the first theme. Is 268, yes. This theme 1, governance, executive authority, and leadership accountability. So the assessment is done theme by theme. Can we all of us be on page 268, where it says theme 1, governance, executive authority, and leadership? Is there anyone having a difficulty? Honorable Klopa.
You're asking two things now, Chair. You're saying hands to foot deliberation and if you've got difficulty. So I don't have a difficulty, but you asked if I would like to deliberate or speak on this.
Yeah, hold it. I now want to recognize the speakers from theme 1 on page 268 up to page 278. Honorable Ngola, you have been noted. You will be the first one to speak. Honorable Skosana, number 2. Honorable Klopa, number 3. Honorable Matthias, number 4. Number 5 is your Honorable Chief Whip. Number 6, Honorable Breitenbach. Number 7, Honorable Sols. Number 8, Honorable Sangoni. Do you still remember your numbers, all of you? Okay, can we start?
Chair, even if they don't remember the numbers, I'm going to cover them anyway.
Okay. That will make my meeting easier.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, just one aspect from my side in respect to the assessment and analysis of evidence. I think you'll recall that at some point we wrote to the Speaker requesting the services of I'm not sure if it was a data analyst or a forensic investigator. And the response from the Speaker was that the reason there was an addition, an appointment of Advocate Mkhwanazi was for specifically those purposes. But Chair, from where I'm seated, I doubt a lot of work in respect of those forensic services has been done in respect of the evidence that was delivered before the committee. You recall that we have requested those services specifically because the magnitude and the form of evidence that was submitted to the committee and the load of work would not have allowed us to have ample time to do an analysis whether this evidence can be credible, this evidence cannot be credible, and that. So I just wanted to reflect on that, Chair, that I'm not sure if we have covered that aspect in the two documents, but I think from once where I'm seated, there's not much work that has been done in respect of those or that aspect. Thank you very much, Chair.
Can we move to the next speaker? Honorable Skosana.
Chair, can I come at a later stage? You can pass through. Just want to formalize everything into one. Two, 6, 8.
Topa.
Thank you, Chairperson. I only have two things to speak on here. On the first is on page 274, it's D&E, where the former Minister Bekitele was sitting here and giving his evidence. And if I look at D, it speaks that, there's much caution and there was on the evidence of Bekitele with Mr. Matala, because of how he became aware of the Tembisa hospital environments and the serious allegations, and then it moves over to E. So obviously it's already a red flag if you're already aware of these allegations and you're staying. Then we move over to E, where it speaks of the plot or the alleged plot against SAPS officials, and the allegations was hearsay. And I'm not sure if this is 100% correct. The allegation might be hearsay, but Mr. Katmantlala, according to Bekitele, was confessing to him about plotting against the police officials, giving an affidavit that was fake. And I still asked the former minister, is this not then perjury? So what plot completely was he speaking of that hasn't been tested? This was his own admission that he had made those affidavits that were false, and then it was later withdrawn. And then it goes on to say that both the former minister was a minister as well as a national commissioner, and that it raises accountability concerns. And I think it's just that part there which says, allegations was hearsay. This was said by Katmantlala that he had indeed given those false affidavits. And that part just concerns me slightly in that paragraph. Chairperson, please just forgive me because I'm working from the computer. I just want to get to the next point, which is on...
What do you recommend on that part, on page 270?
Chairperson, I don't know if we should be calling the whole thing a plot against the SAPS and that it cannot be tested, because part of it was in the evidence of Bekitele, the former minister, as well as Katmantlala, that he was in fact confessing to being part of this plot? And can it only be tested then as an allegation of hearsay if both Kat Mhlala as well as Bikitele are both saying the same thing? That evidence was given that he had, and that affidavit was indeed handed in against those officials of stealing the Rolexes and so forth. And I don't think it should be treated just as hearsay.
Yeah.
And I worry that we're weakening what was actually then said here.
You are suggesting that when we go to recommendations, if there is any recommendation on that part, it may not be strengthened.
Yes, yes, Chair, and I just think that we should just be cautious in this paragraph of using the word hearsay when it was part of a testimony given here by Bikitele, as well as Kat Mhlala, confirming that there was an affidavit given.
Okay.
All right, sorry, Chair, let me just quickly
Yeah.
get to the next one. I only have one more point. I just need to get to it. Please forgive me. Chairperson, so I didn't structure this as just one part and then another part. Mine is just every part that I read that is concerning. And on page 278, B, it speaks about the lack of evidence and a record of drafting process, legal advice, documents, etc. And I think that the lack of evidence is concerning in itself. If one doesn't even after all these interviews understand the why there was no records, and the whys that were given seems to be so many, we're really in a difficult space. There's a lack of coherence and totality. I don't understand how any decision was taken without due deliberation and due diligence. And it's exactly because of this lack of evidence that we're actually sitting in the situation that we are. So, sorry? Oh, we were sitting in this situation because there's a lack of evidence, because there's a lack of record keeping. And I think this is just something that should be really, highlighted. Chairperson, I'm going to pause there. I don't want to waste a lot of time, and I know we have a lot to do. So that is just the only thing I have to say for this whole section. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay. Charlie, are you ready?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll be quick, Chair. I think the issue here about Minister Mkhwanazi, that the directive was lawful. We know now that it was not lawful about the disbandment. Now, there should not be any doubt about that. And I think the way it's put here is like we are still saying, we are speculating. Because when you read B,
On which page are you?
269,
Okay.
that directive of disbandment, we now know, and the issue of the port entry, where General Musikili spoke about it, that she considered such an outcome incompatible with SAP's constitutional and statutory mandate, and with its aviation and maritime security responsibility. We know now that the minister was involved. I mean, that's what we were told here. Unless we have a doubt, we are saying General Musikili was lying to us. And when we come to the boundary between the police and operation, let me jump to the issue of Nkabinde. The Nkabinde matter.
I think what you should do, what you should do, are you still on page 269?
I'm done with that, Chair. I'm done with that. I was just saying that on that 269, I've raised what I've raised.
Listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The report is paginated.
Yes.
And the paragraphs are also numbered. And some of the paragraphs even have subheadings.
True.
Yeah, so so that everybody is on board with the inputs that you make.
Thank you, Chair.
If you move from page 269, you can alert us that from here
I'm going to the other page. Thank you, Chair.
to the other page, and maybe if the paragraph is numbered, you can just say 13.3.3.
No problem, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I'm quick, Chair, you know.
Yeah.
On that B, Mateus is concerned here, but fine.
No, you are,
The-
you
I'm
are quick.
protected.
And I agree with you that you are very quick.
Yeah, the issue, Chair, here, now I'm on page 269, which I'm done with that,
Yeah.
on the issue of General Musikiri.
Yeah.
Then now I'm on page 2713.3.4, constitutional
Yeah.
and institutionalized boundary between police and operations. I think we deliberated that in terms of who's an accounting officer, you know, between the minister and the national co-commissioner. And it was evident that the national commissioner is an accounting officer
Mm.
and the minister is an executive authority. Now, we know now, Chair, on 270, 13.3.34,
The second paragraph on
the second paragraph
on
on
page
page 270. Is that Minister, Police and Oversight Authority that we agreed. But when it comes to the issue of accountability, the accountability rests with the National Commissioner. And the issue that the senior sub-witnesses, however, described the same action as intruding into the operational command was discussed in this meeting, that the minister was indeed intruding. He argued, with the minister about that to say that he still maintains that he is indeed as well involved in operational issues. And we argued strongly about that, that there's a thin line regarding that. Now, when you go to that issue, which for me invokes the 13.3.5 about Nkabinde, to say, the minister said clearly here that Nkabinde, he was impressed about Nkabinde, you know, and there's nothing wrong of Nkabinde. Hence, I'm talking about the thin line, that Minister Mkhwanazi emphasized that the executive is not excluded from decisions that have operational implications when this arises from the structure. And that emanates from the issue of the disbandment. That's what I want to emphasize here. Because he was livid that for him, there was nothing wrong about him disbanding the PKTT. And we know all of us that it was wrong. On the 13.3.5, which I was talking about, the internal decision-making process of Mr. Nkabinde, because he was central, Mr. Nkabinde, on this matter. He confirmed that the directives were circulated for input within the minister's office that has transmitted it, and that it did not question its legality, timing, or operational consequences. For me, this is not clear. Because I think the way it's worded here, I've got a problem on that, because I think we should be very, very clear whether it's Mr. Mkhwanazi correct or is Mr. Nkabinde evidence correct. And when you jump to on page 271, the episode nevertheless raises the governance concern, a serious institutionalized disagreement between the minister's office and the senior sub-officer came to the documented through an undisclosed personal recording rather than through a transparent and properly recorded official process. And I think we've traversed that by if one has to remember as well, beside what is documented here, is that it was wrong for the minister to ask Nkabinde to record Mkhwanazi. That recording was completely wrong. Because minister explicitly instructed Minister Nkabinde to make that particular recording or directed that it may be made covertly. In other words, General Mkhwanazi was not told that it was recorded. Now, we have to have the findings on that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Then we proceed. Honorable Matthias.
Thank you, Chair. We are going to start on 13.2.1, which is the purpose, function, and approach. And our input here is that the committee is not empowered to determine criminal guilt or impose sanctions. So I think this sets the pace also on how it is we're going to go into deliberations. However, we must note that the limitations does not prevent the committee from making actual findings based on the evidence that is placed before it. And this must be properly captured under the purpose, function, and approach. So I'm just going to read how I think it should be worded, but obviously our content team will make it more appropriate. I know we have more of a revolutionary approach when we write as the EFF. So under 13.2.1, the committee is not empowered to determine criminal guilt or impose sanctions. However, this limitation does not prevent the committee from making actual findings based on evidence placed before it. The committee is entitled and indeed required to assess the credibility, the reliability, and the weight of evidence, to evaluate competing versions and determine whether allegations are supported by evidentiary record, and identify governance failures, oversight lapses, wrongdoing, misconduct, and institutional weaknesses where the evidence permits. And then we move on to under 3.2.4. We should note underneath there that throughout the inquiry, the committee received sworn testimony, documentary evidence, written submissions, and other information that is relevant to the allegations under investigation. And in many instances, evidence was collaborated by multiple witnesses, and there were documents and electronic communication and objective records. And I think that is not properly captured underneath that section. Move on to sorry, I have to just scroll down and look for under a theme 3, which is 13.5, and we go to point B under 13.5.2. Our input here is that the evidence demonstrates that crime intelligence experienced prolonged leadership uncertainty, extensive vacancies, and contested positions, governance disputes, and operational instability during the period under review. Then we go to F, also under the same theme. The committee finds that the moratorium imposed on the appointments within crime intelligence materially affected the ability of the division to perform its functions and contributed to the operational weakness identified by several
Which
witnesses.
page are you, Honorable Matthias?
It's I don't know the page number because I don't have page numbers, but it's on 13.5.2.f. Let me. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
because
theme is,
where you're at means you are ahead of us.
are we doing one theme at a time? Hey, I missed that, thank you. Okay, so.
Honorable Sols, are you fine? We are between 268 and 278.
I thought I'm number 7, Chair.
Eh,
I thought I'm number 7. I'm after.
He has spoken. Look behind you, it's only one person.
I
Honorable,
can see that now. I didn't see Honorable Breitenbach ran away. So we're dealing with
theme one is on from page 268. Governance, executive authority and leadership accountability. And then it ends in the middle of page 278.
yes. So when we read 13.3.2,
The 31st of December.
yes, which deals with the directing of the immediate disbandment. And then it goes into the subsections. You have got B there where it talks about General Mkhwanazi and General Masemola characterized the directive as having direct operational impact, as having been issued without prior consultation, etc. I feel that there is an imbalance in the posture that the report is taking. It gives the impression that the committee is, even though we don't have any evidence of the allegations, but it seems like we are leaning more towards the testimony of General Mkhwanazi and General Masemola and ignoring the counter evidence to those allegations. Because there was contention around what was immediate and what was not immediate. So the procedural flaw, I think, is it treats the third party evidence that was mentioned, to support this. It was accepted it was hearsay, but here it seems like, although we don't mention it in the report, but it seems like we are treating it as hard evidence, that it was proved that the disbandment was unlawful. So I think we should insert something along the following lines. The committee explicitly notes that whilst Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi's testimony outlines a compelling narrative regarding the Big Five drug cartel, there remains an absolute absence of direct forensic, financial, or digital evidence linking former Minister Mkhwanazi's executive decision to any illicit network. Allegations stemming from inmate interviews and unvetted audio clips do not meet the threshold of verified fact and must be treated as unsubstantiated assertions pending formal judicial outcome. Because if we don't do that, we then intentionally ignore the fact that, number one, when the directive was given, the disbandment did not happen immediately. There was agreement amongst SEP's officials, the National Commissioner together with the Minister, that it will then happen over time. And that was the testimony here, but it seems like there's no emphasis on that. Two, I specifically asked directly to our main witness, is Minister Mkhwanazi corrupt? There was no answer to that. As a matter of fact, our main witness, General Mkhwanazi, said he can't answer that. So we can't ignore the fact that there wasn't real evidence on this issue. We must not treat it as though there was conclusive evidence to us that there was this links to drugs or to a drug cartel. There was no evidence given that Minister Mkhwanazi disbanded or gave a directive for disbandment because he was infiltrated by a drug cartel. There's no evidence. So for the report to treat it as though there was is unfair and unprocedural. We do not choose between Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, neither do we choose Minister Mkhwanazi. Our job is to present what we have discovered fairly, make recommendations, and then a decision of guilt is found thereafter. So I don't think we should exclude or create an imbalance in what we have found. And I hope that what I've just read as something that I think should be inserted as a balance will be added there. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable James.
I'm partially covered, Chair. I'm still battling to understand, as we are going through the report right now, what we have before us, because we seem to be making and giving our recommendations now already.
Yeah, we're still coming to recommendations.
So we're just assessing what's in the report.
We are making a thematic assessment between pages 268 and 278. But remember what we said is that we will exercise some degree of flexibility so that if there are certain submissions that you think may escape you, you can make recommendations at once so that such points do not go missing.
No, I'm fine for now, Chair. We've made our submissions and I'll
Yeah.
wait until that point to give input. I don't think
Yeah.
I'm going to deliberate on
So
any-
if we come to findings and recommendations and you
Yes.
feel that there are points that you want to submit, you are allowed.
Right. Yes, I'm going to wait until then. I think that's the important and that's our
Yeah.
mandate here today. Thank you, Chair.
In fact, what a thematic approach means for the benefit of you and the Chief Whip is that the report is organized in 7 themes. So theme 1 deals with governance and the exercise of executive authority. So what it means is that when we are in this section, if there are any matters that you would have observed during the proceedings and you feel that they may not have been adequately covered, you can raise them now, which are related to the decision to disband the PKTT and the political interface between, the political administrative interface. And then if you also, you would have gone through the findings and the recommendations. At the same time, you can marry your assessment together with the findings and the recommendations. But if that may be too cumbersome, you can always deal with one at a go and come to the findings and the recommendations at your own pace. So it's like the chair has adopted an outcomes-based approach that we allow every learner to learn at his or her own pace. The next speaker was the chief whip.
Chair, when we were dealing with, when we were listening to witnesses, I think it was very easy. Now, when we must deal with the report, it's getting
It's
complicated
very
because
complex.
we all have read the report and we have worked out our different approaches on how to comment on it. When Honorable James was talking, I was smiling because I was very clear that part of what she's saying addresses my concern. I am not going to deal with the substance of what is contained in the report on theme 1, but I want to deal with my proposals on what should be covered as findings or recommendations on theme 1.
Yeah,
So which means,
you are in order.
yeah, because as I listened to my other colleagues, they were critiquing what is contained in the report
But
at the
even
moment.
maybe before you
Yeah.
you go to do that, because if this process is cumbersome, members may advise. If you want us to give each one of you to make your own assessment and recommendations on the whole report, we can take the same approach. The content team will find a way to locate them properly. You see? And if you still feel strongly that we can continue through the thematic approach, maybe what we can do, let's finish theme 1, and then let me check what the time is. So it's not about lunchtime. We take theme 1, we conclude it, and then I get an advice from you as to whether you want us to continue theme by theme, or you want the chair to give each one of you a chance. And then you say, what I'm going to present will cover all the themes, including the findings and my recommendations. The content team will then come and delineate what I would have submitted. You see? And then the difficulty which may be there is that at the end of the day, when you have the report with all these findings and recommendations, how do you want to approach them? Do you want to approach them as a unanimous report or as a report with majority and minority findings and recommendations? Yeah. I think Honorable Sangoni, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I think in principle, we don't have a problem with your suggestion that we all speak on the report on its entirety. I'm worried because we're likely to be raising issues that we raised in our submission. We had a meeting last week or the week before where we had thought that this particular report would have consolidated our submissions. And to be honest, I don't see the African National Congress's views in the document as it currently stands. Now, in the event that we were to take that approach, it then means that the report is going to go back and get reworked again, and then we must sit and look at it again? Or are we finalizing it during these next 2 days? That is where my biggest challenge is, because I feel like we've already done this. We're going to go through our report and tell you what we said. I know that you're trying to figure out, Chair, whether we're looking at a consensus, unanimity, or we're going to have minority, majority views. Are we going to deliberate all those issues here? So it's not just about depositing as we did the last time, and they were not adequately covered. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah. Honorable Skosana.
I think, Chair, what you've already proposed, I think that will work wonders. Even if that will have dissenting views, because we'll have dissenting views, that's for sure, it's normal. Unless we agree, maybe there's a miracle that will make us to agree, to say this report, all of us, there's majority, if there's majority, so be it. We won't object to that for the sake of objecting it. But if there's issues which we are raising and we feel strongly, as members, not as collective now, some members might feel that, the recommendations are not appropriate or are not as hard enough as some of us want us to be. Though I think the way you are saying it now, it will help, because if we go by theme to theme, I can tell you now, we'll finish on Friday. I'm not rushing. I'm prepared to stay here until the weekend. No problem, Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Matthys.
Chair, yeah, I'm still applying my mind on how to do this very. So when we had our discussion, I think we discussed our evidentiary assessment in detail when we did it on that day. And then our inputs were done. But this report was presented, but we didn't go into detail. It was just to capture what was submitted, and then we were coming here to discuss it. We have a superior content team. So what I would propose is that we move in onto what our recommendations and our findings are, and then it has to find expression in any other part of the document where it needs to be. However, we're going to have to do that secondary approach of verifying that whether there is actual enough evidence to back up what it is I'm saying. For example, if I say Honorable Kosana must go and to the ethics committee because he lied under oath. I'm giving you an example. We must be able to go and under Honorable Kosana's evidentiary assessment, etc., and be able to do that. Because what I'm concerned about, if we just rush and we get to our recommendations and findings, and then the rest does not find expression under all the other themes and headings, we're going to look extremely clumsy. So someone who reads this report without having the back knowledge, it's going to be like, but how did they come up with this? Because it's not sufficiently covered. So I think the content team can run with it and must be able to find and make sure that if we agree that this must be a recommendation or finding, that it's adequately covered in any themes or any headings above in the report. And I think that would be progressive. I just don't know how we're going to handle, Chair, when we disagree on what the inputs need to be. So maybe it should be noted, and then we spend another day where we deliberate on what our approach is going to be on matters where we're not going to agree on, and that it's noted. Otherwise, we're just going to go on for a long time going. So I think we must note objections. I think I've already noted an objection to Honorable Saul on what he was saying, but we can go back and forth. So maybe on the areas where we're not agreeing, it must be noted, and then we have we allocate time where we go back and forth and summarize and agree on how we're going to move. Thank you, Chair.
You listen, honorable members. You are not disagreeing between yourselves in terms of approach. Because if you remember the initial proposal that Honorable Sangweni made was that let's take the report theme by theme, and in a theme where a member would want to make findings, you make those findings and suggest recommendations. So we will be done with that theme. And so now, because I can see that, and that is why I was very worried that you look very nervous and tense. It's like you are going to the examination room. And that was a sign to me that there is a difficulty in terms of how we're approaching the report. And that's why the second proposal then is to allow every member to say whatever they want to say on the report. And then if you want the content team to go back and say, we have factored all your inputs, your findings and recommendations. Let's say, for instance, on theme 1, these are the areas of agreement. And these are the areas of disagreement. Where there is agreement amongst committee members, it means it's a unanimous resolution. And then where there are areas of disagreement, that is where we will then develop an approach on how we discuss. And if we disagree, we can then agree to take an approach of majority and minority recommendations. So now, when I rotated with yourselves, I wanted to check whether you still want us to proceed with the approach of going theme by theme, or you desire the approach of allocating each one of us time to make their own observations, findings, and recommendations. And then we conclude the meeting. Honorable Souls, you were next.
Chair, I know that we are not deciding on which approach we're going to use now, but
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, let me say what I think. I lean more towards the theme by theme,
Yeah,
because when we deal with the findings and the recommendations, we are now making sure that it speaks to each other in the themes,
yeah,
and we get to the findings. And Chair, you will sympathize with me, because what this has done in the public court of opinion
yeah,
is we all as members has received certain labels by South Africans.
yeah,
For example, I have the label that I'm protecting the drug cartel.
yeah,
Now I'm sitting here, and to propose a balanced view, and I mention Minister Mkhunu, I will again be looked at as I'm protecting Minister Mkhunu and others. But I'd rather risk that and maintain the integrity of this committee that says we will present our findings in a fair and balanced way.
yeah,
What we found about General Mkhwanazi, the positives and the negatives. What we found about Minister Mkhunu, the positives and the negatives. We present without no emotions. So what I was raising earlier was just to say, what I've spotted is the things that Minister Mkhunu raised is not, there's not a balanced reflection. And so I will emphasize that. For example, another one, and I close with this, is there's no mentioning or even alluding to the fact that Minister Mkhunu is the one who canceled the Ketmatlala tender. So it should speak of executive intention that we are dealing with here. So we must zoom into what is our posture in the report. So I'll rather run the risk, but I will fight for a report that presents fairness and it preserves the integrity of this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable James. Anything to say? Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you know, we can go around in circles all day. Certainly looks like we intend to do that, sadly. But we should bear in mind that all of us, all of the members of this committee are not finders of fact. We're not a court.
Yeah.
Weighing up evidence and making findings of fact is a very, very, very difficult and very, very, very specialized task that many experienced judicial officers struggle with. None of us have that experience. We are not finders of fact. Our job is to find weaknesses and problems present in the current system that governs the South African Police Service, the National Prosecuting Authority, and the wider criminal justice system, and to make recommendations on how we best think those can be resolved. We cannot find people guilty. We cannot find people innocent. We can find that people have misled us when the objective, glaring facts suggest that, and we can make recommendations in that regard. But we cannot find guilt and innocence. So we needn't waste our time with respect debating those issues. There's a very important paragraph in the report on page 427, paragraph 15.16.2, which says exactly that. The evidence before, and evidence is used in the widest possible sense here, because what we heard here was not evidence, it was information. It was not tested, it wasn't cross-examined. There's nothing to support it. There's no supporting evidence or extraneous evidence or real evidence to support most of the information that we heard here. So to call it evidence is a very generous term. But the paragraph says, where evidence before the committee reasonably suggests that a witness may have knowingly provided false or misleading evidence to Parliament, the National Assembly should consider referral of the matter to the appropriate authority for assessment. That's our job. We have no other job. And so we can go around for days complaining about what people said, but it's not really relevant to what our job is. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Ngola. Covered. Chief Whip. Yeah,
Me, I'm getting to business.
okay.
Yeah, I'm.
So honorable members, for progress sake, we are going to take this approach. We will take the report theme by theme. And then this is what we are going to do. If there are members who want to make complete submissions covering all areas, I'm also going to give them an opportunity so that they must not just be passive in the meeting, waiting for the afternoon. So can I check how many of us want to speak once and make their submissions? It's Honorable Skosana, Honorable Matthews, Honorable James. Yeah, so I'm going to take the Chief Whip now. And then when the Chief Whip is done, we will take Honorable James. Honorable Ngola. Who want to speak? Did you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Do you have inputs to make on theme one? Oh, okay. Chief Whip, may you proceed?
No, thanks, Chair. Chair, I'm going to make a proposals. I'm departing from the understanding that we all have read the report. We have our own views about what the report says in terms of the substance. And I want to start off by raising issues that, in my view, have not been properly canvassed in the report. The first one, and it's part of the recommendations that I'm going to be making, so that at some point when you decide that there must be a debate in the committee to determine whether the majority or all of us or some of us agree with this recommendation, you know that it's a specific recommendation. We leave it to your discretion to decide at what point will you want us to discuss and address areas of divergence on various recommendations. So the first one deals with the matter of the directive on the halting of the crime intelligence post. My own reading of the report is that there are no specific recommendations or findings on that matter. And I want to make the following submission. So that it's easier for the meeting chair, I'm going to read it on record. That a decision by an executive or administrative authority should rationally relate to the purpose for which a power was given. So a decision must also bear a rational connection to facts and the information available to the decision maker on which the decision is proposed to be based on. The SAPS Act and the regulations promulgated by the minister grant the National Commissioner authority to decide on the creation and filling of posts within SAPS. The minister, that is now the point I want to emphasize, that the minister, in my view, misconstrued his powers as there was no empowering provision in law that gave him the authority to unilaterally decide that the post should not be filled. So that's the first point that I want to make with regard to the directive on how to handle the intelligence, the crime intelligence post. The second, that's my proposal that we should make as a finding
Yeah.
on the matter.
Yeah.
The second one I want to make, Chair, relates to the directive of the minister, because as you would notice, I'm dealing with the three aspects of the directive first and foremost, because that is what occasion our existence as this committee following the press conference by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. The second one has to do with the directive on ports or the ports of entry, as were recorded on the intervention by the minister. Here, I'm also making an observation of something that has not been explicitly found in the report before us. And the point that I'm making there is as follows: that the minister was within his powers to issue a directive in terms of Section 207, subsection 2, directing that the National Commissioner develop a plan to assess the personnel impact and efficiency of police at the ports of entry. So that's the finding number 2 that I would like to put before the committee for consideration. The third one is on the disestablishment of the PKTT. Again, here I'm going to be making a point on a matter that does not appear on the report explicitly covered on the findings by our team on this report before us. And the point there is that there was no meaningful consultation between the minister, the president, and the IMC and other stakeholders. The assessment of work of the PKTT was not conducted, and the minister's reasons for disbanding is not entirely supported by what would have been a sequence of well-grounded facts before or at his disposal. So that is the third point that I want to make as an observation of the findings, having listened to everybody who appeared before us, including the minister, as well as you remember, the affidavit from the President of the Republic of South Africa. And then the fourth point I want to talk to, is it four? Is five. Point number five,
Number 4.
number four.
Mm.
I'm not sure if I'm still within the same theme, but I want to take 4 or 5 points and stop, yeah,
Yeah.
even if they are not in the same theme. This one deals with the allegations that the minister is a member of a criminal syndicate. Again, I want to make a point here, which I suggest should constitute one of our findings. That is not also coming up on the report. And the point is that the allegations cannot be, in my view, cannot be sustained and be supported by evidence before the committee. So with all that we've listened, I have a sense that the report recognizes the fact that we listened to this issue about criminal syndicates, but it doesn't spell out clearly whether we should be considering a finding which implicates the minister on this matter. And that is why I'm making the point that I've already explained. The last 2 points I want to make, Chairperson, is that the first of the last two deals with the existence of what is called the drug cartel, or the Big Five, as it has been commonly known. Again, the point there is that the evidence of its existence and the coordination, I think we need to make the point that is inconclusive in terms of what has appeared before us. We can't stand up and firmly say, we can say with certainty that does exist the big cartel or the the Big Five, as it has been argued before us. The last one, Chair, that I think I want to weigh in on is the alleged corrupt relationship between Minister Mkhunu, Mr. Mkhwanazi, as well as and between Mr. Mkhwanazi and Mr. Matlala. The point I want to make there is that in terms of what was at our disposal, evidence of corruption between Mkhwanazi, Mr. Brown Mkhwanazi, and Minister Mkhunu is, in my own view, still remain unproven, as well as inconclusive. And it relies largely on what one can call speculation and a conjecture, not necessarily substantive evidence with which you can stand on to confirm that indeed the two gentlemen, Minister and Mr. Mkhwanazi, have entered into some corrupt relationship. And I want to conclude by saying, as well, in terms of the evidence that can confirm, that deals with corruption between Mr. Mkhwanazi and Mr. Matlala, and that corruption being done on behalf of Minister Mkhunu. I also hold the view that the report should indicate in our finding that we can't make a conclusion like that because the information before us does not confirm such. Of course, I want to qualify my statement there, that it may, however, be necessary that further investigation is carried out to determine if any link of that kind exists between the minister and Mr. Brown Mkhwanazi. Now, I'm making that qualification cognizance of the fact that that investigation would not necessarily have to be done by the ad hoc committee. Once the ad hoc committee has concluded its work, it may have to decide which other agencies of the state would be appropriate to handle that matter so that they go deeper than what we were able to do as the ad hoc committee. So for now, I want to rest it at that point, Chair. I have other comments to make, but let me not monopolize the meeting.
In the next things. Chief Whip, because this was your slot to speak on theme 1. If you still have anything on theme 1, you can exhaust all your issues. You are fine on theme 1. Yeah. So wait. The content team has captured what you have said for theme 1. So now we are going to take Honorable James. Honorable James' inputs are cross.
Yeah, just
Are cross-cutting.
few ones.
Thank you, Chair. Chair,
Am I
detail-
representing you correctly that you are speaking on all from theme 1 to theme 7?
yes, thank you, Chair. And a detailed report has been submitted for
you,
incorporation.
thank
So I'm
you,
just going to
thank you.
highlight on a few
Thank
of
you so much.
our findings and the recommendations, if that's
Yeah.
okay.
You
Okay,
can go
so
ahead.
part A is part of our submission, strengthening evidentiary standards and accountability. Authentication of the evidence, the finding there, the committee received various forms of evidence, including video material relating to General Mkhwanazi without any accompanying evidentiary framework governing authentication, verification, or chain of custody, right? This creates a risk that findings may be based on material whose reliability cannot be independently established. So we have that finding, and our recommendation is that the committee should formally adopt and record a clear evidentiary standard requiring that video, audio, and documentary evidence be authenticated before being relied upon in any finding. Authentication should include, where appropriate, forensic investigation, documented chain of custody records, corroborating witness state testimony, and/or other recognized methods of evidentiary verification. Where evidence cannot be satisfactorily authenticated, the committee's final report should expressly record this fact and refrain from drawing adverse findings based on such evidence. Then, on witnesses who misled the committee, our finding during the proceedings, concerns arose that one or more witnesses may have provided false or misleading testimony to the committee. Recommendation, the committee should resolve that any witness reasonably suspected of having knowingly misled the committee should be referred to the appropriate authorities for investigation, and where warranted, prosecution under the powers, privileges, and immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislator Act 2004. Such referrals are necessary to uphold the integrity of parliamentary oversight processes and deter further misconduct. B, security vetting, access control, and senior appointments. Security clearance as a precondition for access. The finding, evidence before the committee highlighted significant weaknesses in SAPS's security vetting regime, including instances where members occupied sensitive positions or accessed classified information without valid security clearances. This extends to Mr. Nkabindi's appointment, his prior relationship with the minister through the IPID matter, the informality of the chief of staff role, the changed evidence, the preconceived inoccurrences, and COVID recording episode collectively point to a minister's office operating without the adequate institutional guardrails. The recommendation, SAP's policy regulations, and when necessary, legislation should be amended to entrench a strict no clearance, no access principle, whereby no member may access classified information systems or facilities without an appropriate and valid security clearance. Security clearances must be periodically renewed and reviewed, and access privileges must automatically lapse upon the expiry, suspension, or downgrading of a member's security clearance. The appointment of chief of staffs and senior officials in ministerial offices within the security cluster be subject to security vetting at a top secret level as a precondition, not merely as a parallel process. Number two, parliamentary confirmation of senior SAPS appointments. Our finding, allegations of political interference in SAPS appointments underscore the need for greater transparency and independent scrutiny. Recommendation, the South African SAPS Police Service, the South African Police Service Act 1995 should be amended to require parliamentary confirmation hearings for appointments to the following positions: National Commissioner, Deputy National Commissioners, Provincial Commissioners, and the Head of Crime Intelligence. Such confirmation processes should include public hearings and parliamentary approval before appointments are finalized. Part C, depoliticizing SAPS and clarifying operational independence. Clarifying the relationship between the minister and the national commissioner. Finding evidence and expert submissions before the committee highlighted ongoing uncertainty regarding the constitutional relationship between the Minister of Police and the National Commissioner. While Section 207 of the Constitution provides that the National Commissioner manages and controls the police service in accordance with the national policing policy and the ministerial direction, legislation does not adequately define the scope or the limits of such ministerial authority. This creates a significant risk, like we've seen, of political interference in operational policing. Recommendation. Parliament should initiate a comprehensive review of the SAPS Act to provide legislative content to Section 207, Section 2 of the Constitution, a legislative definition distinguishing policy directive, in brackets, lawful ministerial function from operational directives, functions exclusive to the National Commissioner. All ministerial directions to the National Commissioner must be issued in writing and accompanied by reasons. Such directions must be preceded by consultation with the National Commissioner. All directions must be tabled before Parliament for oversight purpose, and legislation should identify a minimum category of operational matters in respect of which ministerial direction is prohibited. These prohibited areas should include decisions relating to individual investigations, decisions relating to specific criminal cases, operational deployments, appointments, promotions, transfers, and removal of individual officers, and decisions concerning specialized investigative units, including units analogues to the former political killings task team. Can I continue, Chair?
Yes.
Almost done. Part D, strengthening oversight of crime intelligence. Parliamentary oversight of crime intelligence findings. Evidence before the committee identified weaknesses in parliamentary oversight of SAP's crime intelligence operations and expenditure, including oversight of Secret Service accounts. The recommendation: the oversight mandate of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence or other suitably mandated parliamentary structure should be strengthened to include regular substantive reporting obligations, enhanced access to operational and financial information, powers to comply testimony and documentation, and appropriate safeguards to protect legitimate national security interests. Extending the Auditor General's mandate, the finding there, current limitations on the Auditor General's powers create an accountability gap regarding the auditing of certain SAP secret and intelligence-related expenditure. Recommendation: Parliament should pursue legislative amendments extending the Auditor General's mandate to include SAP Secret Service and crime intelligence accounts, subject to appropriate confidentiality and national security protections. This reform would significantly strengthen financial accountability within SAPS and is very important. Operational and administrative reform, digitization of case docket management finding. The continued reliance on manual docket management systems create opportunities for tampering, loss, delay, unlawful interference like we've seen, thereby undermining criminal prosecutions and public confidence in the justice system. Recommendations: SAP should accelerate the implementation of a fully digitized case docket management system, incorporating secure electronic records, role-based access controls, comprehensive logging of all docket activity, enhanced evidence preservation mechanisms. Such reforms would improve case management, reduce opportunities for corruption, and strengthen prosecution outcomes. Almost done. Review of SAP's organizational structure. Findings. Evidence before the committee suggested that SAPS maintains a management structure that is disappropriately top-heavy relative to its operational and investigative capacity. The recommendation, an independent organizational review should be commissioned to assess SAPS's rank and management structure with a view to reducing the unnecessary management layers, improving organizational efficiency, reallocating resources towards frontline policing, and strengthening investigative capacity. State-owned devices for official business. Findings. The use of personal device for official SAPS communications and operational matters impedes oversight, weakens evidentiary integrity, and undermines institutional accountability. The recommendation. All SAPS officials, particularly those in senior management, intelligence, and oversight sensitive roles, should be issued with state-owned phones, laptops, and other official device work for related work purposes. Such devices should remain the property of the state, be used exclusively for official business, and be subject to lawful access, audit, and oversight processes in relation to SAPS-related conduct. So, Chair, this is just some of our findings with the recommendations. Like I mentioned earlier on, a more comprehensive report has been submitted for inclusion, for consideration.
Thank you so much, Honorable James. So that completes we still had Honorable Sangoni on theme 1. No, she has spoken to all the things. You want to do it like her. No, she said that she only wants to make those cross-cutting findings and recommendations. Honorable Ngola.
Chair, it looks like it's so difficult for you today to notice me or recognize me.
No, I have recognized you.
Should I proceed?
I even wrote your name down.
Should I proceed, Chair? I thought you.
It's your time to speak now.
No, thanks very much, Chair.
The last will be Honorable Sangoni, and we move to theme 2.
Thanks, Chair. I also wish to adopt the process done by Honorable James. Just try to speak on everything. I think the first thing, Chair, which stands out, particularly on theme 1, is the issue which the Chief Whip has touched on also, which relates to executive authority, which I think some of the members would have misunderstood the issue. And executive authority, Chair, isn't derived from evidence tabled in the meeting. It is specifically derived from legislative and policy frameworks. So I also agree, Chair, with the Chief Whip when he speaks about what the minister would have misconstrued as his powers and what was within his power to attend to anything. Let me not expand, Chair. The Chief Whip has covered on that part. I want also, Chair, to cover to just one aspect in relation to theme 6, the interagency coordination. I think, Chair, it is common cause that there is a need for law enforcement agencies to coordinate their efforts to eliminate duplications where necessary. So I think let's specifically give that obligation to the JCPS cluster to develop an organized crime and corruption strategy, which will align the investigations as it relates to organized crime. As we speak, Chair, for example, we have an issue of Mr. Matlala, whose case is in IDEC today. Tomorrow is in the PKTT. The other day is in crime intelligence. The other day is at IDEC. So we do need that court